Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Moletrap here, coming at you with a video log, and this is basically just going to be about the transition, especially in Korea, from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2. And the reason why is, first of all, this is something that people ask me about somewhat often, and it's also something, so I kind of want to answer all the questions, I guess, at once. And also, it's something like I feel like I have a unique perspective on what with being in Korea, but also working it on GameNet recently, where that's where the StarCraft One pros still play, and where StarCraft One is still produced. So working with the same people that are making the OSL has kind of given me some insight as well. So I'm going to be talking about that. Quick disclaimer: I'm probably going to ramble a little bit. This is actually my third take on this because every time I start talking too much, and I'm going to make a short version, basically, is what I'm saying. So if you want to know more, ask me questions. I can answer in comments, or I might do a follow-up log, but I want this to be a little bit shorter than what I had before, so I'm going to try and keep it brief-ish. But fair warning, I'm going to ramble a little bit here and there. It's inevitable. Anyway, another disclaimer. I'm not speaking on behalf of On GameNet. This is nothing I say should be considered like an announcement or an official opinion. These are all my opinions based on what I've observed. No secret information or anything like that is involved. This is just things that I feel and think and have determined based on what I've heard, both public information, just from getting to know people as well. So, anyway, so I'm going to talk about a few things. First of all, I'm going to talk about the end of Brood War and why it's happening and why it's okay. I'm going to talk about the split league format and also the kind of differences between the StarCraft 1 pros and the GSL StarCraft 2 pros and what each group can bring to StarCraft. And then I'm going to talk about the future a little bit as well, just kind of some things that I think need to happen and that I expect to happen in the future of StarCraft 2. So, first of all, Brood War is on its way out. That's pretty obviously the case. This is the last Brood War OSL was called the last Brood War OSL or something like that. And some people kind of don't know completely why. So I'm going to offer my thoughts, my opinions on why that is. First of all, I think it has a lot to do with the sponsors kind of leaving the StarCraft 1 scene, because unfortunately the fact of the matter is that in the end this is an industry, it's a business, and StarCraft 1 was started in Korea with just passion alone, people that just loved esports, loved playing the game. They didn't have any money, they didn't have any sponsors, and they made it happen, they grew it, but that was because there was a potential, a place where investors saw that they could invest and things would go up. And there's not that anymore for StarCraft 1. So even though a lot of people have a lot of passion about it still, it's still going to go away. The sponsors, I think, saw that or see that StarCraft 2 is the future, or other games for that matter. They're seeing that, okay, well, when StarCraft 2 came out, everyone kind of knew that it was inevitable that the sequel would take over from the original, right? So that's kind of why I think some of the sponsors moving out. And that's why I think we saw some of the teams, breaking up about a year ago too, the StarCraft 1 teams, is as a result of that. We even have, StarCraft 2 teams now that can't quite get a sponsor, that are having trouble with that are they're having issues and having to merge or things like that. So anyway, so the sponsors leaving is what kind of caused things to move on. Now, I'm a little bit okay with that, is the other thing I was going to say about it, because thinking about it, I stopped watching Brood War regularly about when StarCraft 2 came out. I still watched a little bit here and there, and but a few months ago when I started working it on GameNet, I started watching a lot more of it, and I remembered how much I loved the game, and the thing is, though, is I would watch these games and I would realize, wait a minute, I know what's going on from my knowledge of the game from over a year ago, you know, the basic meta hasn't really changed a lot in a couple years now. And so I guess what I'm saying is Brood War has kind of been solved a little bit, and it's gotten a little bit stagnant as a result, which is okay for me. It's okay for hardcore fans who, you know, some people say, okay, well, if the meta is solved, then that means it's just a true test of skill. The playing field is even, and it's a true test of the skill of the player. And that's true, but unfortunately, again, it is entertainment. And so stagnation is not good for entertainment. So, you know, variety is the spice of life. So, unfortunately, for the sake of it being an entertaining show, that stagnation is not necessarily a good thing. Because I can watch it and enjoy the skill of the players, but most people are not going to be able to watch it and enjoy the skill of the players. They'll just see the same game, you know, the same opening from both the Terran and the Protoss, 19 out of every 20 PVTs over and over again, and they're going to get bored with it. So, anyway, something that's interesting that I've noticed working on GameNet is that all of the people involved in the production of StarCraft 1, the producers, even on down to some of the camera people, one of the student interns that works there that I know, they all love Brood War, and they don't want it to go away, but they've all kind of realized that it's going to, and they've all kind of moved on, or they've made up their minds that that they have to move on in some way or another. Some people are moving on to other games. Some people are just moving on to other jobs, but you know, especially the people that are just on GameNet, they're not just leaving on GameNet because Brood War's gone. They're doing other things now for other games. But anyway, point being, I guess I'm saying that unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that Brood War is dead because the people that are in charge have already moved on. They've already checked out from Brood War. But I guess I also want to say in defense that it's not without a heavy heart that the people who make Brood War are doing this. They would love it if there was still money and enthusiasm for Brood War. They could keep doing it forever, but they're not. There isn't, so they kind of have realized that and have decided to move on. So anyway, all right, this is already a little bit shorter than last time, which is shorter than the previous time. So okay, so hopefully we'll keep this not too long. I want to talk about the split league a little bit and the differences between players. So first of all, if you don't know, the Pro League, which is the Kespa OGN run team league, has a split format right now where there's a best of 3 in Brood War, and there's a best of 3 in StarCraft 2. And if one team wins one and the other team wins the other, there's an ace match in StarCraft 2. And this is genius. It's genius. It's probably not the best for the players, because then they have to kind of split their attention a lot. And even when they want to practice StarCraft 2 most of the time, they still have to practice a little bit of StarCraft 1 because the players are forced to switch back and forth every week between the two games. But it's genius because what it is it's trying to transition the StarCraft 1 audience over to StarCraft 2. Not everyone knows that StarCraft 2 is actually not very popular in Korea right now. StarCraft 1 is much more popular in Korea than StarCraft 2. Plus, they obviously haven't seen their favorite players playing StarCraft 2 yet. So that might change, obviously, as things transition over. But point being, what they're trying to do is take that StarCraft 1 audience, get them to tune in to watch their favorite teams and their favorite players, and then they'll stay for the rest of the broadcast to see if their team wins in StarCraft 2. So it's a really, really good move. It's a really, really cool idea, I think, to try and transition those fans over, because the fans are, of course, what are going to make StarCraft thrive as an esport. You need the fans watching to entice the sponsors into paying for the tournaments. That's what it comes down to. So that's a really, really cool idea. We're going to see if it works enough or not, because, like I said, even more than a year after StarCraft 2 came out, StarCraft 1 is still more popular here. Just a couple quick thoughts, hopefully quick thoughts, about the differences between the different groups, I guess, the OSL players and the GSL players, I'll call them. Some people call them the Kespa players. I prefer OSL players. So, a real quick note here. this is just kind of a little bit of fanboy in me maybe, but everyone has heard this already as well. The StarCraft 1 players, the OSL players, the best ones, that's the key distinction, are going to be mechanically superior to the GSL players for the most part. They're the mechanical ability necessary to play StarCraft 1 at the highest level is higher than what's needed to play StarCraft 2 at the highest level thus far. I think that might change. Anyway, so a lot of people say, okay, well, where's the proof? You know, we've seen some players switch over. Why aren't they wrecking everyone? Well, the only person to switch from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2, in my opinion, who was anywhere near the level of your Flash and your Jaedong was a guy by the name of MVP, and he has crushed everyone. I don't think that other players are a good example. I'm not saying that, when Jaedong and Flash get full-time StarCraft 2, they're definitely going to crush. I'm just saying, like, we haven't actually seen yet, because for GG, Hune, some of the old pros like Nada and Boxer, they were not nearly at the level. You know, here's like Flash and Jaedong right here. MVP was like here. He was actually pretty close. Hune for GG were here. Boxer and Nada were like here. So they were not nearly at the same level. We haven't had anyone from this level switch yet. Completely. And now we're having them switch over, obviously, but they haven't had time to really get into StarCraft 2 full-time, so we haven't seen their full potential yet. And what everyone is saying is it's going to take 6 to 12 months for them to catch up. That's what I'm hearing from pro gamers, from coaches, from everyone. It's probably going to take about 6 to 12 months for them to catch up completely and then be on an even footing. Maybe a little bit sooner for some players, but who knows. And, you know, even though there is the split league, you know, I got to interview Stork and Best, and they both said that, you know, Stork and Bisu both said that they're practicing StarCraft 2 almost 100% of the time because they know that's the future. So, anyway, moving on again, trying to keep this a little bit short. Again, if you have questions, you know, you want me to talk more about something or other, go ahead and leave a comment on the video or something like that, and I'll try and answer it either by text or maybe I'll do another video log to follow up. The future. First of all, I'm really looking forward to when the OSL pros catch up. You know, your Jaedongs, your Flashes, Storks catch up, because then I'm hoping that they'll raise the bar a little bit and we'll start seeing even higher level play. We'll start seeing people micro multiple drops more often. Sure, we see that sometimes, but it's very rare. Usually, even the best StarCraft 2 pros will, you know, set rally points around the map, hit unload behind the mineral line, and they'll forget about that dropship or that medevac. And, you know, the StarCraft 1 pros, you know, the top level ones will micro different drops at different times, and it's something we have yet to see very much. We still see it sometimes, but anyway, so point being, I'm hoping they'll raise the bar a little bit. The StarCraft 2 players, obviously, just with their experience, are doing better. I mean, it's just a simple matter of fact that the GSL players are doing much better. They're beating. I think there's only one OSL player left in the WCS tournament, for instance, in the winners bracket. So, and they won all the qualifiers for like OSL except for one, all WCG, all that stuff. So there's no doubt that the GSL players are doing better. I don't think that means as bad for the OSL players as people think it does. I think that, like I said, when those 6 months pass, they'll be able to catch up, and then we'll also see two different styles combining a little bit. We're already seeing this a little bit. You know, there's definitely different styles going on, sometimes even different builds, although they don't necessarily always work. But, you know, the StarCraft 2 players obviously don't make... When StarCraft 2 first came to the Pro League, the OSL pros were making like really newbie mistakes, you know, stutter stepping their medevacs so they couldn't heal the Marines while they were moving and stuff like that. Stuff that we saw in the first season of GSL, we were seeing again because people were new to the game. But at the same time, sometimes they're doing things better in some ways. Like, for instance, some of the OSL pros, I think, were some of the first ones to really start bringing warp prisms with their army so they can warp in on creep and not have pylons that are vulnerable, and that's something that we see is pretty standard nowadays. So again, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if it was like, oh well, there was this one game when, you know, Oz did it and I missed that game or something like that. But anyway, point being, I think that just having a different style altogether is gonna mean that the OSL pros are gonna add something to it as well, and it's gonna be really cool to see different styles happening and people taking from each other's styles. Let's see, a couple other random things. Unfortunately, something that I think needs to happen in StarCraft 2 is either some people need to come up with some different play styles, or maybe in expansions there needs to be some new mechanics involved. Just because, I mean, some of the coolest things to watch in StarCraft 1 were the little things, and there's not as many of those in StarCraft 2. This is just my random opinion, but for instance, Reaver Shuttle Micro. If anyone is a Brood War fan, you just went, oh yeah, Reaver Shuttle Micro. Oh, that stuff is good to watch. Okay, it's just beautiful, just beautiful. It takes so much finesse. It's just an art form, and I don't feel like there's anything really like that in StarCraft 2 right now. Like, if you do a Hellion harass, sure, you just run them in and you try and move around and you try and dodge fire or whatever, but it's not as there's not as much finesse to it as you know, something really kind of precise. That's what I was thinking of, precise. So there's that. So I'm hoping that maybe in Heart of the Swarm we're going to see some of the units more able to do that, because I mean, it's just not the same. You can't put a Colossus in a warp prism and micro it that way. It just doesn't quite work the same way right now. So that's something I'm hoping for in the future. So one more thing that I think is going to be cool coming out of all this is that I feel like, in a way, the StarCraft 1 team switching over are going to grant some legitimacy to StarCraft 2, just in the fact that the StarCraft 1 teams, they're the ones that have had the big name sponsors, they've had the money, they've had the notoriety, they've had the history behind them. They're the ones that are recognizable more so in society. So I'm hoping that with those big name sponsors switching over to keeping their sponsorship of these teams over to StarCraft 2, hopefully we'll see more sponsors, more money coming into some of the established StarCraft 2 teams as well, because I know that they are just really, really hardcore. They're all passionate about making this work, but unfortunately some StarCraft 2 players work for virtually nothing. Sometimes they work for nothing, and you know, that's not a good basis for an industry. And I mean, it's kind of how things were when StarCraft 1 first started out. No one had any money and everything. They had to build it from the ground up. But I would love to see all these cool people, these great gamers that are striving to make a name for themselves, actually have, you know, some money for it, be rewarded for it. So hopefully that'll come from this transition as well. And just in general, the globalization of things as StarCraft 2 becomes truly global, with you know, on GameNet, for instance, doing English broadcast now. And that's another reason, you know, that's another reason why things are moving on in Korea to StarCraft 2, is because people are recognizing, okay, if we're going to be competitive in the world, we're going to have to move on to StarCraft 2, because StarCraft 1 is just not extant outside of Korea. So as things globalize, that's going to be good. And hopefully, you know, obviously the Koreans are dominating StarCraft 2, just like they did StarCraft 1, almost as bad. And hopefully we'll see that skill, that knowledge spread around the world, and hopefully Korea will learn from the rest of the world as well. It's just really, really cool. I'm just hoping that everything will be good. Anyway, so I guess that's going to do it for now. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to make it too long. So ask me questions in the comments if you want. I'll try and answer them. And yeah, I hope that at the very least this has spawned some discussion. I may not be correct about everything. These are just my opinions. I'm sure people are going to nitpick the little things here or there. And that's perfectly fine, because at the very least then it's getting people thinking, it's getting people discussing, and if there's more discussion about what can make esports grow in the future, that's a good thing, because if people are thinking about that more and keeping that more in mind, then that can only be beneficial. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it got you thinking a little bit. I hope I was able to provide you with some insights that you may not have had. And again, if I missed any insights, things that you might want to know, please let me know, and I'd be happy to share more with you guys. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. See you later.